Hey guys, welcome adventurers, it's Cressup here with another episode of Indies in Depth, where we take a look behind the scenes at the indie game industry with the people who work in it. Now today I'm going to be chatting to Will, aka Kini, who's working on a new detective game called City of Voices. And I'm particularly interested in this because he also worked on Rise of the Golden Idol, that great deduction game. He was a designer and writer on that. Now I loved Case of the Golden Idol, I loved Rise, which came out last year. So we chat a little bit about his work on that and then how that translates to his new game City of Voices as well. As always, do wishlist the game. The link is just below this video. Check it out on Steam and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to find out more about all the latest and greatest indie games up and coming for this year and beyond. And of course, I do stream on Twitch as well if you want to check that out. twitch.tv/Cressup. So I'm very excited to have a little chat now with Will, aka Kini Games, who's got a brand new detective game up and coming. And he also worked as a designer and writer on Rise of the Golden Idol. You might have heard of it, critically acclaimed and loved by many people. Also a kind of deduction series. There was Case of the Golden Idol, then we've got Rise of the Golden Idol. Very excited to chat to Will. Will, how are you doing?
Hey Laura, I'm very well, thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Excellent. No problem at all. I genuinely am really excited because I'm a big fan of the Golden Idol games. They're very clever. There's so much going on with them. And now to hear that someone who's worked on them is also making their own game in that kind of style, I was like, I've got to get him on. And of course, I've met you before. I played your demo way back of a similar kind of deduction style game, Signal and Echo. So
Yeah.
yeah, excited to hear that you've got this in the pipeline.
Yeah, God, I've told you before that I really regret the fact that I no longer have a video recording of you playing through Signal and Echo.
I know. Well, that
Iris
was
is
my own
missing. That
fault
was
as
so
well.
fun. But yeah, no, excited to speak to you.
So let's get into it then. So we'll start a bit with your background. As I said, you were creating this demo, Signal and Echo. Then you decided to sort of shelve that for a little bit because you got involved with the guys at Golden Idol, Color Grey.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with them? How did this start?
So, I mean, I'd been a huge fan of the Case of the Golden Idol. It was doing so well, so many of the things that I was trying to do in that
Yeah.
game, Signal and Echo, um, doing them much better, in fact. But anyway, Tim Scheinman, who you probably know, made
Yes, I do. Yes.
detective games like Riley and Rochelle and what other ones has he made? A bunch of them.
Yeah.
Family was a good one. He knew the guys at Golden Idol and he was in their Discord and he mentioned to me that they had posted an advertisement in their Discord. They were looking for several new kind of writer designers to come on board for the sequel. Um, so I applied for that. I just sent them an email. I sent them a link to Signal and Echo, which they actually played. I was surprised to see, and they enjoyed it, which was amazing at the time, just to hear them say that. I also sent them a clip. Actually, do you know Robot Spacer? He's a great Twitch streamer. Plays lots of really retro
Oh,
games.
I need to. I don't,
Um,
but I need to check them out.
yeah, he's awesome, and he had, like you, he had streamed a blind Let's Play of Signal and Echo, and I sent Andreas and Ernest, the
But
Golden
he
Idol
kept his
creators.
playthrough.
Well, I actually downloaded it immediately, and I've
Mm.
watched it more times than I'd care to admit. I like if my house was on fire, that would be one of the things I would save. I love watching it. Embarrassingly, narcissistically. Um, but yeah, I sent the guys a clip of him solving what I consider to be that demo's best puzzle and him having one of these real eureka moments.
Ah,
Uh, we discussed swearing really briefly before coming on, but here's one time I will swear because he just his partner, I believe it is, in the background, Unsecret Crush, mentions she figures out this puzzle and she says, "Oh no, but what if this happened?" And he just goes, "Oh shit, yeah, of course." And that means then that if I go back here, I'll be able to do this. And it's just it's this moment that is exactly why I make these games,
Yeah,
like
awesome.
seeing people experience that. So I sent them that to kind of prove that I was capable of generating these moments. Then we had an interview, maybe two, just over Zoom, and yeah, they kind of asked me what would I do with a sequel, and one of the things I said was I'd probably take it to the modern day, and they had already been thinking about the 70s theme, and I don't know, I think we just clicked, and I obviously didn't mess it up too much because
No.
they hired me. But
Um,
it was originally a kind of part-time thing.
yeah.
I worked part-time for them for several months along with a few other guys from Australia and America, but they've since hired me. I think since about October, maybe August, I've been working full time with Color Grey.
Amazing. That's so exciting. And so, what was your involvement with Rise then? Were you sort of part of the team coming up with puzzles, or what were you doing?
Yeah, it's amazing how much we got to do and get to do because we're still working on the
Yeah,
DLCs.
of course.
Um, but yeah, I mean, primarily we each Andreas and Ernest, the co-creators, come up with the overarching story.
Yes, yeah.
Overarching. And we do have meetings about that and we contribute to it, but primarily they go away and come up with this big story. And then we divvy out who is working on which scenarios. Um, Andreas and Ernest are working on some, and then some of us newbies are working on some. Like, for example, you've played it, right,
Yeah, yeah.
Rose?
Finished it, loved it.
Good girl. Uh, like, so for example, the first scenario I did was the prison scenario in chapter
Oh yeah,
two.
yeah. That I really
Um,
enjoyed that one. I'm not just saying that because I liked how everything there was a lot of different puzzles within puzzles for that one that you had to
mm,
kind of piece all together. I mean, obviously that happens quite a lot with Golden Idol, but that one I think was quite clear the scene, everything that was happening in it.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I really like it too. And even though I say like it's my scenario, what really happens is we individually take the lead on a scenario, but they still have a lot of input
Yeah,
from Andreas and Ernest, because otherwise I think it would just end up feeling like yeah,
separate. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and so yeah, we just go away and we kind of come up with the story for these scenarios. I mean, I think probably all we knew about that one at the time was that um, someone needs to break out of prison.
Right.
I
Okay.
think probably. Um, and yeah, so we just come up. It's then up to me or whoever else to design the whole scenario, test it. So yeah, my job essentially is writing stories, designing puzzles. It's genuinely my dream job.
And how long then would one such scene that we see in the game, as in like a an episode, I guess you call it, like for example
Yeah,
the prison one, from start to finish, how long would creating all of that take, roughly?
yeah. It does vary, but I'd say on average maybe a month,
Okay.
and that includes a lot of testing. We test the hell out of them,
Yeah.
and they change a lot depending on the tests. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that prison one actually took longer because it was the first one and we were learning the ropes. But on average, I'd say an average size scenario, maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks.
And in terms of that, are you sort of privy to the whole, characters and how they're connected to other parts of the story, or was it you just had to kind of design the puzzle and then they added the details
No,
after?
we no, we
Okay.
know the whole story, and as I say, we do to some extent contribute to it, and we come up with characters. Like at one point, I wrote a huge back document for Tessa Navari, who's
Oh
one
yeah,
of my
she's
favorite
great.
characters. Um, yeah, so writing all about her
Yeah.
her past and who she is as a character and little fake conversations with her and stuff just to get to know her. So yeah, it's character creation as well. It's basically all the fun stuff. Like I don't have to deal with any of the business shenanigans and like publisher meetings.
Yeah.
I just get to do all the creative stuff. That's why it's yeah. I couldn't ask for a better job.
And what did you take then from working on this to I guess what did you learn from it? Because like you said, you had started out making some kind of, like
Mm,
detective style things, but when you came into this, were there certain things where you're like, oh, okay.
yeah, there really were
Yeah.
actually. I think there were probably two main things. One is the importance of locking in a watertight story before anything else. Like, okay, so this person escapes from prison. What does he need to do? He needs to get through the window bars. But why couldn't someone else have heard him? And like, so one of the things Ernest in particular is really good at doing is poking holes in a story you've come up with. Like, well, why would he do that? That doesn't make sense when he could have just done this, or someone would have seen him do that, or whatever. And yeah, so I now much better appreciate the importance of trying to tear your story to shreds until you're left with something that is rock solid and watertight. And then you can build the puzzles around that. Whereas with Signal and Echo, if I'm being honest, I because I care so much about the puzzles, um, I still do care about the story a lot, but really I'm passionate about the puzzles. And in Signal and Echo, I actually would let the puzzles dictate the story sometimes.
Okay.
Like, if I thought this is such a cool puzzle, but it means that the story's going to have to go in this direction for it to work, I would allow the story to kind of flow in that direction. Um, Whereas I don't think that's the most sensible idea. You end up writing yourself into corners and things like that. So that's one thing, the importance of a watertight story. The other thing, which they drilled into us from very early on, um, and which I've possibly now gone a bit overboard with, is is it's images and pictures and visual clues are more fun than written clues.
Mm.
There's an example, slight spoiler for a really early case in Case of the Golden Idol that they showed us early on. If you remember in Case, it's the one where a guy is lying in bed and he appears to have fallen off a rickety ladder, but actually he's fallen off a horse outside while he was hunting.
Right, yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and there are all these clues you
The
can
horse in the
click on.
background.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one. It's really early on, and it's a simple scenario, um, but there are all these clues you can click on and read. But one clue that you can't click on, it's just kind of in the background, is a trail of blood leading from the guy's bed to the door outside. And so that kind of tells you um, just it's a clue that's in your face, but you can't, as in it's right in front of you, but you
Yeah.
can't click on it. So it doesn't draw attention to itself. And when you see that, and recognize its importance, I think that is really satisfying. And so there's actually a lot of that in Rise of the Golden Idol, and I tried to use a lot of that in my scenarios. Like one of the other scenarios I took the lead on was the garden retreat one with the Tessa in the Zen Center.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a hell of a lot in there that's just like stuff you can notice in the background. um, I won't spoil it.
I was going
Uh,
to say, yeah, I mean, this might be difficult because of spoilers, but do you have a favourite puzzle that you designed?
ooh, yeah, I do actually. Um, and it's not one that has been particularly popular with players from
Oh.
what I've seen. Yeah.
Right, let me
So
see if I can. I'll give you my
one of my
thoughts on this one.
one of my favorite scenarios that I took the lead on is a really small scenario called Bordering Brawl. Do you remember? With there's a a demonstration going on to show that the idol can do
Yes.
what it does. I
Yep, yep,
won't say
yep.
what that is, but, and there's a revelation. This is difficult to
Yeah.
talk about. There's a revelation at the end of that
Yeah.
that when it works, because I've watched a million
I
playthroughs of
guess you
the
must
game,
have. Yeah.
when it works, it is a real eureka moment,
Okay,
and
yeah.
players love it. I saw one guy saying, this is the reason I play these games, is for moments like
And you're
this.
like,
Uh,
yes.
but then I've seen on Reddit a bunch of people kind of rating their favorite scenarios, and Boardroom doesn't enter up there at all.
No.
Like, I think I've also seen a lot of players brute force it, so I wonder how many
Okay.
actually had the revelation. Or maybe my scenario just sucks.
Oh
Who
no.
knows?
But you did, but it can't suck because some people had a really good time with it. So it must be so difficult with these kind of things because it's so subjective. You really can't test for everything and how people are going to take something. And I
Yeah,
don't know. That must be, especially with something like this where it's all about deduction. That must be quite difficult.
yeah, it's really difficult kind of designing for different abilities of
Yeah.
players as well. Some people are better than others, some people play in different ways than others.
And I'm going to ask you this, and I don't think you'll be able to tell me, but you've mentioned that you're working on the DLC. Can you give us
Mm.
anything about that on what you're doing at the moment or when that might be?
So, I mean, nothing that hasn't already been
Yeah.
announced, to be honest. But what's been announced is that there will be 4 DLCs. Uh, I, th- I think we might have announced what the first one's about, but I can't quite remember if
Okay.
that's true. So just in case, I'll
No, that's
stay
fine.
stum.
But that's great that
But
you're
they're
working on
going to
them
be
though.
great, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. In which case, let's get on to the game that you are yourself making. And where did
Mm.
this come from then? I'm guessing with the sort of newfound knowledge from working on Golden Idol, were you like, right, I want to try my own thing now, or how did this come about?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is a complete, not complete, but it is very much a rip-off of the Golden Idol's mechanics with Andreas and Ernest's blessing,
Yeah.
just because I think they are such good mechanics that lend themselves to basically telling any kind of story you want through deduction gameplay. Um,
So tell us
yeah.
about it.
So it's called City of Voices. It is a Golden Idol like in that you kind of click around and make deductions to figure out what's gone on in these frozen in time scenes. Um, but rather than being all about kind of murder and strange cults and stuff, it's more of a kind of heartfelt tale, and it starts off in English suburbia around the turn of the millennium, and we have a protagonist called Rosie, who's this young girl just starting out at secondary school. She's getting bullied, um, and the game starts out, as I say, this kind of slice of life story. It does take a very weird and fantastical turn, which we've kind of alluded to in
Mm,
marketing
yeah.
materials, but we don't have any of the art assets for it yet. It won't be a secret because it is the bulk of the game,
Okay.
so we will explain what it is once we have drawings of it. Um, but yeah, it's just a slightly different. It's, as I say, not so murderous, not so dark, not so bombastic as the Golden Idol games, but hopefully just as fun and a bit more emotional, a bit more heart. There is emotion and heart in the Golden Idol games, but mostly they're kind of very thrilling
Yeah.
tales, I would say.
That's interesting then. And in terms of the sort of deduction mechanics themselves, is it very similar in, like you said, you click on a certain thing and that gets added to your book and then you can use that word to sort of fill in.
There are actually, so that's where it does differ
Oh, okay,
mechanically,
cool.
is we don't have words.
Okay.
So exploring the scene works in exactly the same way as
Yeah.
in the Golden Idol games. You see these close-ups, you can see what's in people's pockets, what they're saying in that moment. and obviously you can examine the background for clues and stuff as well. But rather than collect phrases and then slot those phrases and words into empty slots within a sentence structure, instead we ask direct questions, and to answer you pick from a selection of pictures.
Oh,
And
okay.
the idea is that so, for example, in the tutorial scenario, Rosie has fallen in a puddle of mud, and you're asked what caused her to fall. And there are various options, like there's a rock she might have tripped over, or a football, and a picture of a girl's face. And if you haven't really worked out what's going on, the pictures won't really give you much clue as to what they might be implying. Like,
Right. Okay.
did someone kick a football in her face, or did she just trip over it? But if you've worked out what's going on, it should be immediately obvious to you which picture the game is asking you to pick. That's the idea. And one of the reasons is A, as I said, it's been drummed into me that pictures are more fun than words. Uh, B, more importantly, um, we wanted to guard against people being able to figure out what the answer is based on sentence structure and
Now,
grammar
that's very
cues.
interesting because I did end up doing that quite a lot in Rise.
Yeah,
And I
it's
actually, in a sense, I kind of enjoyed that element of it because I obviously am English speaking and I completely understand. Was that, I mean, has Rise been localized actually?
yeah,
Is that
and
quite
and that
difficult?
was exactly the third point I was coming on to. It makes it a hell of a lot easier to localize
Right,
because
yeah.
yeah, as you can imagine, that game is a nightmare to localize.
Yeah. Because a
Um,
lot of the clues are actually just in the syntax, which I found fascinating.
yeah, and if you
Um,
consider that a language like French has sort of masculine and feminine for nouns and stuff, that's going to give an extra little clue to
yeah,
a French player. Yeah,
it's
I don't
very
want to have to deal
interesting.
with any of that
Yeah,
stuff.
right. That does make sense, and anyone could just play it then, and it's it's like you say, slightly less. I mean, in terms of localizing as well. That's
Yeah,
interesting though. I guess will there still be that element of it? Is it still going to be difficult to brute force it, or how
yeah.
do you kind
I
of
want to
guard
make
against
it.
that?
I actually want to make it more difficult to brute force.
Oh,
I'm very I'm very adamant about the way these games should be played.
yeah, yeah.
So I
You
want
will
people
deduce it.
exactly. You will have this eureka moment. I, I will force it on you.
Yeah,
Um, so, like you just said, it's interesting. You said that you quite enjoyed the puzzle element, like thinking of it as a language puzzle
yeah.
in
But I
the.
think that might just be me. I don't know. I just quite
No, I
liked.
don't think it is just you. I think people do enjoy that, and I think Ernest and Andreas are very much of the mindset that if people enjoy it, let them play that way, which is totally understandable, far more reasonable than my mindset, which is no, this should be played. Like you should be in. Like it will be a hard pill to swallow, but once you get into the groove of playing it the way you're supposed to, you'll find it so much more
Mm,
satisfying. So yeah, we do have other uh, little sort of added bits of friction in there to
okay.
make brute forcing less, yeah, less desirable.
Yeah, I see. Okay. That's fine. I think for me, it was just like it was a little extra thing that was like, aha, I can read this and work it out. But yeah, I totally get. I mean, you want people to work out the puzzle that you've got. I will say I did still work out the puzzles. I wasn't just
I'm sure you did. I have
and I didn't
no
use any
doubt,
hints.
Laura.
So they've played I don't think
That's an interesting thing, though, actually,
yeah.
that you say, and I didn't use any hints.
Yeah.
We haven't developed a hint system yet, but
Ah,
I want to. I will introduce one, and
okay.
I want to let the player know that it's much better to use a hint
Yeah.
than to brute force. Like use a
Okay,
hint
yeah.
and still have that eureka moment. Hopefully, like I think there's a lot of players of Golden Idol games who really try to avoid using hints. but then they just brute force it.
Yeah, because what else can you? Because there is, I think there is, with all these games, there's a point where you're so frustrated and you're like, I actually now just want to get on to the next bit and I've kind of
Yeah,
solved it and I'm probably 99% there. There's just one little bit that I've not
yeah.
quite got.
Well, in cases like that, I think it's the game's fault
Mm.
and not the
Yeah,
players.
exactly.
Like,
It's
yeah,
the guys. I believe there's not a demo or anything available at the moment publicly, but the guys have played a bit of it from Color Grade.
yeah. They played the whole demo,
Amazing.
albeit with sort of placeholder assets. They have really kindly sort of, yeah. They said they loved it and said they were happy for us to quote them,
Yes.
saying they loved every minute of it. So slap that in the trailer and the press release. And
Did they give you
yeah, they
any feedback or tips, or were they like,
yeah
oh,
they've been
change
great with
this?
feedback.
Yeah.
Not just of the the game itself, but also just if I make a trailer, I'll send it to them and they'll say, "Oh, I think you should do this, that, and the other. Cut out this." But so they've been super supportive
That's
and
great.
really helpful. And yeah, they've played the whole demo. The whole demo is done, minus um, like it's still got a few little placeholder assets in there that Matt is drawing up. And yeah, we're looking for somewhere to launch the demo, basically, like some kind of event, Steam event or something.
Wonder what that would
Mm.
be.
Well, I don't know what it is yet.
Oh,
Like
I didn't know.
somewhere that will accept us. If you
Possibly a
have any in
Steam
mind,
Next Fest that's coming. I don't know. It's probably a bit late for that one, isn't it? But
yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
don't think it will be a next fest, but
no.
I'll pick your brains afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is where I played Case of the Golden Idol first. It was a Steam event and there was a demo and I just
Mm.
picked it out and I was like, this is amazing. Long before it kind of most people were kind of talking about it. A few people were playing the demo and
I
yeah.
think there's some kind of conventional wisdom, like you because we've only just announced it and don't have as many followers as we presumably will months down the line, you should hold off for your one and only Steam
Right, yeah.
Fest till then, or something like that. I don't know.
Who
I,
knows? I'm
I'm
definitely
kind
not an
of winging
expert.
it with I'm winging it with all this kind of marketing stuff.
Yeah, and I guess let's talk a little bit about the art as well, because you
Mm,
mentioned Matt there, and it's got this
yeah,
beautiful pixel style, which is obviously quite different from Golden Idol. So tell us a little bit about that.
yeah. So I'm co-developing the game with Matt. He's primarily doing the art, but he's also like we're working on the story and the characters and everything together. Um, but yeah, he's a fantastic pixel artist. I actually, yeah, I consider myself so lucky to be working with him. I was aware of his work long before he knew who I was. Um, but then one day he he happened to mention on Twitter or something that he had really enjoyed the Signal and Echo demo, and I was amazed that he had even played it, let alone enjoyed it, because I had seen his art and it just looked amazing. And I had played games that he had done the art for. Um, and so we made a jam game a while back
Ah, this is
called
where it all
D-List
goes.
Diva. Yeah,
It's
with
called what?
Carl
Sorry.
DeBru. D-List Diva?
Oh, cool.
Come, didn't you play D-List
I
Diva?
don't
Damn
think I
it, Laura.
did actually. I'm sorry.
That was a traditional kind of LucasArts style point and
Sorry,
click
I've
adventure.
I've not played your whole breadth of work. Sorry.
Boo. But yeah, we really enjoyed working together, and he later kind of told me that he was really interested in so-called thinky games, like deduction games or whatever you want to call them, which obviously is my jam. So we thought let's work on something together, and his art is yeah beautiful. It's quite you mentioned that it's quite different to the Golden Idol games. I mean, the first one was pixel art, but higher res than
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And it is an interesting challenge. Like, if you have some detail in the background that is an important clue,
Oh, yeah.
like, you need to make sure that it reads. So, with our tutorial level, for example, we tested it so many times, and poor Matt had to iterate so many times on this one crucial aspect that just no one was spotting
Uh,
because yeah, it just needed to. to really stand out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Um,
Yeah, there's pixel art, but also having to like see fine details. A bit
yeah.
of a conundrum, but yeah. And I guess what has it been like then, moving from working on quite a well-known project and with an established group, and then heading out on your own?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm doing the two at once. I'm still
Yes.
working for Color Grey full time, but this is, yeah, evenings and weekends, which is what I was used to with the previous game as well. And yeah, no, it's great. It's interesting because I'm basically doing the same thing that I do for my day job as
Yes.
my hobby, but I don't get bored of it.
That's
Uh,
good.
yeah, I love it. I love it.
And I guess, yeah, so what kind of stage are you in at the moment? You've obviously announced it on Steam. I'll put all the details of that. And in
Mm.
terms of next steps, I guess, like you say, are you potentially looking for a publisher to help you out or to get the demo out
Mm.
there? What are you up to?
We're still kind of unsure about whether we even want a
Yeah.
publisher. We probably should. But and so we're sort of in very, very early, very informal talks with a couple of people, but but I have no idea whether that will go anywhere or not. Um, Even if it doesn't, we will just keep plugging away and we'll publish it on our own. Um, and yeah, as for where we are, we've, as I say, finished the demo. We've sort of done a done planning work on a bit more than that, and we've got the whole story set out for the whole game. And we're looking for somewhere to launch the demo. We've been really, really happy with how the announcement itself went, and got good amount of press and stuff. No doubt. I mean, it's been a huge help that I've been able to say that I
Yeah.
worked on the Rise of the Golden Idol.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah,
it does make it more sort of credible, because that is the thing, I guess. We are seeing more of these style of games out now, as
yeah,
it's shown that it's a people are interested in this. So I guess that does help a little bit, that you can prove you've worked on it and you understand it.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're calling ours a Golden Idol like,
Yeah.
and I saw someone on Twitter say, "Yeah, make this a thing like Souls like," because as I say, you can tell any story in this mechanical framework that Andreas and Ernest have developed.
Because
I'd happily play more Golden Idol likes.
same, I love them. I mean,
Yeah,
it's funny because what I was saying this on my stream last night. It's funny that it kind of, in a way, started, and it probably obviously there were deduction and plenty of detective games before Obra Dinn, but that
yeah,
sort of started as one of the
yeah.
key pillars of a sort of modern way that you can't brute force, that you really do have to guess, and this sort of mechanic of, after you've done a couple, then you can
Hmm.
tell if you. So it's funny because there was
Absolutely.
Obra Dinn, and then Golden Idol came about, and they got Lucas Pope from Obra Dinn to say, "I think this is, a great game." And then I just
Do
thought,
you know? Do you know what he said? Do you
what
know
did he
what
say?
his
Go on.
quote was? His quote was, "Loved every minute of the demo." That's what they, and so that's what we've kind of cheekily used from them.
That's what
Um,
I was about to say, because
yeah,
yeah, Lucas Pope said that about Golden Idol, and then they have said that about City of
yeah.
Voices. I picked
The
up on that. I was like, look at this little tree here of
Yeah, I haven't seen anyone else pick up on that,
yeah.
but yeah, that the boys are paying it forward.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right about Obra Dinn sort of kicking off this. Um, yeah, like you say, there were detective games before, some really good ones, but there's a new wave of them.
mhm.
Um, I think also, I know that I was very inspired to make Signal and Echo, and Andreas and Ernest were very inspired to make Case after having watched Mark Brown, Game Maker's Toolkit's video on what makes a detective game, which was singing the praises of Obra Dinn
Yeah.
and looking at some other ones. Um, yeah, I think yeah, there are lots of good ones, lots of really interesting ones, and I try to play them all and see what I like and don't like about all of them.
Yeah. Get some ideas. Well, listen, I'm
Yeah.
very excited about City of Voices. Whenever that demo is going to be shown, I'll definitely be streaming that. And yeah, I guess just where can people go to find out more about it?
I guess at the moment the best place is just the Steam page. If
Yep.
you just search for City of Voices, and yeah, if you're at all interested, please wish list. We need wish lists. But yeah, you can read more there, and yeah, there are some articles floating around that
Yeah.
will tell you a bit more. Probably nothing. Yeah, I don't think you'll learn anything that you haven't heard in this interview.
But wishlist the game. That's the main point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please do.
Cool. Oh, wicked. Well, thank you so much, Will. I'm so excited. I hope I get to see you at some point late in the year. Maybe if you end up going to any events to showcase it, or who knows. But I'm looking forward to playing the demo anyway. And yeah, just excited for it. Well done.
Yeah, I hope there's an Adventure X for us to meet at.
Well, I didn't want
Uh,
to say that because I was like, will there be?
I,
But
I,
I
I
hope
have
there
no
is.
I have no idea. I have no inside knowledge.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, thanks so much for having us, and I too I really hope to see you soon.